On July 16, 1861, the American Civil War began with the Battle of Bull Run on the front yard of William McLean's house in Northern Virginia. Not wanting to be in the middle of the war, McLean packed his family up and moved about 200 miles south to the small rural town of Appomattox Court House, Virginia. 4 years later, McLean found himself back in the middle of the war. On April 9, 1865, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant in the front parlor of McLean's house. Appomattox Court House should be made into a national landmark because it ended the bloodiest war ever fought on American soil, helped mend the North and South, and was the birthplace of a new nation. Appomattox Court House was the location where the beginning of the end of the Civil War occurred. On April 9, 1865, Lee found himself surrounded by General Grant's army. This led to his decision to surrender, saying that there is nothing left for me to do but go and see General Grant, and I would rather die 1,000 deaths. It took a couple more months for the war to completely end, but the surrender at Appomattox Court House was the beginning of that end. With casualties as high as 620,000, the surrender at Appomattox Court House signaled an end to the bloodiest war America had yet known. The process of reunification in the North and South began at Appomattox Court House when General Lee agreed to the surrender of the Northern Virginia Army. The surrender, in part, happened because both the generals felt like the bloodshed should be over. This would be the first time that the two generals would agree on something in years. The generals wrote back and forth talking about this subject. General Grant wrote, "I feel that it is so, and regard it as my duty to shift myself the responsibility of any further effusion of blood by asking you to surrender of that portion of the Confederate States Army known as the Army of Northern Virginia." Lee responded, "I reciprocate your desire to avoid useless effusion of blood." This was a very important conversation because this was the first time the North and South worked together in 4 years. They then continued to work together when Grant was asked to write out the conditions of the surrender. He graciously paroled the Confederate soldiers, letting them leave, untouched, back to their homes and plantations. Because of the kindness given by General Grant, the process of reunification of the North and South began. Like said before, Appomattox Court House brought about the end of the Civil War, which led to the United States of America finally becoming a nation. Before the war, the United States was merely a separated country. Even President Lincoln could not call America a nation. It wasn't until the Gettysburg Address did Lincoln call America a nation and not once a union. Once the war was over, the United States finally became united under freedom for all, and history was changed forever. And Appomattox Court House was the beginning of the birth of that new nation. Appomattox Court House led to the end of the Civil War, brought the North and South together, and was the birthplace of a new nation. After 4 bloody years of fighting, a momentous meeting happened where General Lee surrendered to General Grant, and nothing was ever the same. America is now how we are today because of that, and generations after generations will be forever grateful. Because of all these reasons, Appomattox Court House should be made into a national landmark.